Hair Posh, and we'll be getting straight to it. My guests tonight, Ms. Rhoda and Ms. Ziba, will be joining us in a moment, and then my co-host, which is Mr. Rotimi Itayo. So we've been having this conversation all day. So Mr. Rotimi, I can see him already, and I'm glad he's here because I'm tired. I've just been in meetings today. So we're going straight to it. I'm going to add him to the live now. Engaged this afternoon. People's thoughts. A parent just sent me a perspective just now, which I'm going to talk about once we start. She sent me a very valid. Sorry, I'm tired. That's why. Sorry. Daddy told me that when in my other meeting, and after a while, I started dipping, and I think my sugar is low. It's better now, isn't it? Okay, I'm sure it's better now. I'm sure it is better now. I've just been in meetings all day, so I've been tired. So you can hear me nice and clear now. So I've sent a meeting request, and you will accept it hopefully anytime soon. And our two guests are going to join us, Standard for Standards, and also people's perspectives about the new, I keep saying new, but it's not new, allowing children to write Jamb at the age of 18. What are your thoughts about that? You can drop it in the comments section. Let us know if you want an invite to this topic. Let us do that, because I know a lot of people wanted to contribute this afternoon, but I had to go for the access back. So are you saying you can't hear me still? Are you saying, can other people hear me? Can you let me know so that I can terminate this and start all over again? If there's a challenge with the audio, please let me know, please. I would appreciate it. Can you send a request? So can we hear? Can we hear? Can we hear? Can we hear? Can somebody respond? Can we hear so that I can stop this or we move on? Can you hear me, Ziba? Can you hear me clearly? I can hear clearly. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Winifred. I almost clicked the I almost clicked to terminate it. So we're going to go ahead straight away. I'm going to invite Ziba as well, and then Rhoda can join us. So I'm glad I can hear you, but it's breaking a bit. Okay, beautiful. I can see you, and I love what I'm seeing. I like that you're all here. Awesome. Mr. Ida is going to take full ownership of this meeting today because I'm tired. My sugar is low, and I'm not going to lie about it. I'm tired. I've been talking all day. I've been talking. I love talking, by the way. For those that are new, I'm one of those children that they say talk. It's a lie. I was very quiet as a child, actually. The reverse. But now I like to talk. So make sure you invite me to your events. Make sure you invite me to your weddings, to come and MC, to your school, to come and talk and stuff. Mr. Idel and consultancy, all those sort of things. Let me sell small market here. So tonight we're talking about standards for standards. What are the standards that we should be operating? What are the general standards that we should operate in our schools, in our society? And also this year 18, we had to bring in this Jamb by the age of 18. We had to quickly bring that one in tonight. So what I'm going to do now, depending when Rhoda joins us, some of the questions that have come in, I want to go straight to Ziba. And the first one is specifically address change management. The change management, I'm trying to phrase it. Like I said, my sugar is low. What change management processes, procedures should the government implement, consider, think about before they bring this sort of changes into our system? So you have 3 minutes to do that, and Mr. Isaiah will also have 3 minutes to do that. So in terms of change management, so something has happened, it's new. People say it's not new. Okay, they say it's not new, we've heard. But it's kind of like new to a lot of people because they have children that are 14 years old and they've already finished schools. So what change management should ideally have happened? If you have implementation of a new computer system or an app in your schools or in your offices, in your banks, there's a change management process because there's always going to be a resistance. So right now we're seeing and we're hearing about the resistance. So in terms of change management, can you let us know your perspective for 3 minutes, and then Mr. Itaya will take over and tell us his perspective for 3 minutes before we go deeper down into that conversation about being 18 and so much more. So thank you, guys.
All right. Sure thing. Okay, thanks for having me, and hi, Rotimi. Nice to see you again. So very quickly, I think the first place where they ought to have started was with the stakeholders. And I honestly think this announcement was a surprise to everyone, although for a lot of stakeholders, we were like, well, we already know this is something that existed before, so it's nothing new. But that's where they should have started from. They should have involved key stakeholders, and stakeholders even involves parents as well, not just educators, right? And not just even universities, not probably only just Jamb and all of that, but all the key stakeholders also have been carried along. That would have actually been a really good place to start, and it would have offered the soft landing that the announcement really, really needed. Communications channels should have been clearly established. There should have been transparent communication about this. It shouldn't have been like a hammers down type of approach. The way I described it earlier today, that it really felt like a knee jerk reaction, like something happened and somebody just said, you know what? In fact, what I'm a fadile. That sort of attitude. So,
Let me play devil's advocate at this point
oh,
then. What
okay.
if they did say that they engaged stakeholders? You just don't know who they are. We are
So,
around the corner. We asked you, is a parent, another parent there that the child left from primary 4. We asked her. Then the teachers in that school of called not me, entire school of primary secondary school international. That
I
school,
know,
we
right?
asked them. It's not that you did not hear. We cannot put everything in the media. We
So,
had stakeholders.
so I beg to differ. You can't put everything in the media. We can put town hall sessions in the media. We know there are key bodies, that know how to cascade information. So we know there are the bodies like the APENs, the NAPs of this world, and there are even freelancers as well, people that don't belong to any association per se. You should be able to establish communication channels. You should be able to establish communication channels, and the communication channel is a two-way thing, so you can also get feedback. So there has to be a clear and well-structured feedback mechanism, right? Now, the second thing that I think they ought to have done is gradual implementation. Reason being that the anomaly has gone on for decades. I shared earlier today that I'm in my early 40s, and when I was in secondary school, I was placed in my age appropriate class, but I had classmates that were 3 years younger than I am, or than I was rather. So it's a rot that has gone on for decades. So you need to, for the change to occur and to occur effectively, so that you can get the lasting change, you can reap the benefits that change ought to bring. It ought to be a gradual process, and so they should have had a phased rollout, right? And if possible, maybe even have a pilot program. But that's my opinion. Then we talked about supporting different groups. So there are a group of people that this has adversely affected. There is no clear support. There is no alternative pathway for those children. So, and it's a reality for quite a lot of families. Some people have finished school at 14, some 15. What happens to them? In fact, some who even followed the age appropriate pathway are even affected, because a lot of them are 16 turning 17, so they automatically already have a gap year. What is the alternative pathway for them? What sort of counseling models do you have for those people? And then, of course, to be able to implement this sort of change, capacity building is important. You need to it's, for me, I see this as an opportunity on different levels, an opportunity for the students, for parents, for educators, and the government itself. It's a good time to look inwards and begin to enhance our curriculum in such a way that it can truly prepare these children for university, and ultimately the workforce of our country. So how are we using this opportunity to develop capacity? I strongly feel that's part of the change management process that also are, taking place. And of course, like we said, this is not exactly new. So what is the system, the monitoring system that you are putting in place to be able to track the outcome? I think, am I still here? Sorry, I got a call.
You are very much here.
Okay.
Lovely. I was muted, and thank you for that submission. Very
important.
Hang on, because I have a question for you. I want to hear the perspective of Mr. Ruth Tayo, and Rhoda is here now. I'm going to add her to the live, and then I'll do the brief introduction. So, Mr. Ro, I call him Mr. Ro. Can you go on? So we have Mr. Ro and Ms. Roro. We have Roro and Ro here. Roro is here and Ro is here. It's only the Roro and the Ro are on my own screen anyway. They're on this side. Ro and Roro on this side. Then Ziba and on this side. I like the Ro and Roro.
So Roke, your first two letters is also R. So R is
exactly. I was going to say that.
Whether it's by spelling or it's by sound.
Zero Roro. I'm not on my own. Zero Roro. We'll merge it. Zero Roro.
Hurry up. Otherwise, on your own, I've joined the Rogan. So your name is Rolake. We'll accept you in our group. Are you Rolake? Welcome, Rhoda. I can see your lipstick is still nice and popping. Thank you for being here. So the question, I'm going to go straight to it. I'm going to continue. So I had asked about change management. So Ziba is saying strongly that we need that change management at this time. The government should have implemented some kind of change management, given the situation and knowing that a lot of parents are already caught in this issue of my child is just 14 years old, my child is just 15, 16, and my child is not going to be allowed to write Jamb. Then what? So change management, capital, human resource development, and things like that. So Mr. Roy is going to give us his perspective, after which you can give us your perspective as well. Row, your boat. I like that. Gently down. This row thing is happening. I like that. That is and they just taught me again. I had a refresher class in one of my courses. When something is given, then you use that thing to reinforce the learning. There's a name for it, but you shall know that thing. That's what you did there, right there. Castle Board Schooling and correct school. You got it right. You got it right. I like that. So Mr. Rowe, over to you. So we can mute one.
So I'll say pack your boat. Now it's time to speak. All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And I'm excited about the conversation tonight because it's not just something that we should put around the corner. It's something that's also going to get us thinking. And permit me, because I have mighty experts in the room, to go a different line, go a different dimension. What is more worrisome is not what the federal government has to say. It is the readiness and the equipping of the educators. So I'm taking an indication of the temperature of our responses. And so it's bad that something springs up on professionals. What is worse is that we don't have ready professionals. And so what it seems is like we are shouting that we are clueless, not that we are complaining about the methodology adopted.
So parents, are we talking about the same thing, Mr. Ro?
Yes.
We're not sure.
We're talking about the
some light on that statement. Okay. Because you seem to be attacking.
So let's put it this way. So we have the federal government giving an announcement about the age limitation in writing the senior school exam, and of course the entry into university as well. Now, it's not news any longer. It's already out there. But the major thing to worry about is that we, the professionals, we are making so much complaints that is an indicator to our capacity and readiness to handle change. Change management is not about reality, it's about response to reality. And so the volume is very low on our level of responsiveness, and the volume is very high on our level of reaction. And permit me to say this, if we go by numbers, the federal government might not change or bat an eyelid because, number one, our numbers are too huge for them. They already know about the fact that how many students can Togo admit if people want to Togo? How many students can Ghana admit? Take a look at our volume. How many people can afford traveling to UK to send their children to university? So when they look at those numbers, they are not necessarily bothered. Every policy is powered by an agenda before an announcement. And so that's why when we say stakeholders, they are stakeholders, they are key stakeholders, they are stakeholders. And so we must understand where we belong. So if you say that they did not consult people, trust me, they consulted people. We might not just be on the list.
Exactly. That's what I was saying to communicate.
So I
That's
think,
was in that meeting. She told me.
so I think the major elephant in the room is our degree of ignorance. And when I say ignorance, I'm not saying we are not educated. Ignorance that we are not aware of what happened. Let me give an example. This thing started in May. A verification exercise took place, and Jamb was required to verify a student's performance. And they noticed that if that child would have written Jamb, then that means he would have finished secondary school before the age of 9. I mean, he would have finished university before the age of 10 or something. And in their own
Not university,
defense,
primary school, you mean?
no. If, for example, if a child is saying that they finish university at 14, then when did the child get into university?
Okay, I'm with you now. Right.
So that's where this whole drama supposedly started, right?
Hold that thought for a moment. Now, when you said people, schools or educators are reacting, I do get the difference between the response and the reaction. Now, would you say it is because a lot of them are guilty of allowing 4-year-olds to start primary one, and a lot of them are also guilty of allowing children under the age of 11 to start secondary school? Is it because a lot of the educators at the schools are guilty, and that is why we are hearing this uproar? And is it also because a lot of parents are also guilty for putting pressure on a lot of schools, so they've messed it up? Now, I have a perspective. I want Rhoda to think about it before you, when you continue, Rhoda will have thought about it, which was a very valid one that somebody brought. I was about to she left the voice note, and also a series of voice notes. And I wrote a message. I said, I'll come back after my life. But I started listening to the first one, and she started talking about this thing. I said, no, let me quickly listen to it. That's why I was delayed. Sorry about that. Let me quickly listen to it so that I can bring that perspective here. And that perspective I want to throw at Rhoda. She is saying that part of the reason why this happened is because when the children ultimately went, she gave an example of herself and her husband, that they kept saying that even at 23, they couldn't get a job because they said they were too old to get a job. That how can a 23-year-old be too old, a 24-year-old be too old? That some of the organizations, the companies, they wanted young people in their schools, in their firms, in their organizations. So as a result, a lot of parents started cheating and having fake birth certificates for their children to get jobs. All that. So this practice is ingrained. It's not just in the educational sector. So that one is for you, Rhoda. So think about it. The impact of the workforce on what is happening right now. So even if your child is 18 and does a degree for 3, okay, they don't do 3-year degrees. I know UK they do 3-year degrees. So if you do a 4-year degree here, for example, you're 22, and you go out and they say you're too old at 22. What's going to happen? So that's for you to think about and answer after Mr. Rotimi Tayo. So Mr. Rotimi Tayo, also talk about the guilt in addition to what you're talking about in our responsiveness to this change management. And it's important that you also highlight that some of us still have primary six. Many schools, there may be 10 in the class, 5, 2, sometimes 3. But at least we are doing it because we know the importance of doing it. And at that time, we try to implement life skills for the children, skills that they'll be able to use in secondary school. At that time, they do leadership, they are head girl, head boy, social prefect, all those sort of things are happening at that time. The maturity is setting in. And when they go into year one, they are solid, rock solid. And we're not going to talk about gifted and talented right now because it's in the previous video. Because somebody will say, "Oh, my child," we're not covering that now. So over to you, Mr. Ro, after which Rhoda will continue. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. So to continue my thoughts, I think that number one, we must understand that the pressure on us is on education and not just school. And we must understand that the Ministry of Education is towing the line of probably defending the demands on education, not just the demands of schools. And this is what's going to happen. This is likely the least change shocker that you're going to have. Very soon, you will soon have infiltration of school boards or infiltration of school advisory team. And I've said this 2 years before now. So some of these things that are happening, there are still dozens of integration of policies and laws. You just watch. And so if we are already frightened and we are talking about these things, then it means that we need to ask ourselves, what is the offer from our schools, which speaks to standards? And thank God, at Investigate, we've been talking about this. There is what we need to understand as standards for standards. If you, the recipient of policy, you don't have standards for the standards coming from regulators, you're already in the wrong. And so we need to begin to ask ourselves, because the only thing we can fault the government, even if they begin to say, "Oh, we are sorry for this," the standard of giving out their standard is the only place they got it wrong. But not that they got the standard wrong. So let's understand where the hula baloo and the battle is. It does not stop from the fact that the sharp practice, malpractice, is already across the value chain from K-12. So that's why you find out that the NUT is against it, but the universities are not against it. So while there's an opportunity window, we must begin to now react with certain standards to the standards that have just been shared as the mandate of the hour. And so this is where we need to begin to rethink the design of education to meet the drive and the industry of schools. And so where will the children be? There is an answer to that. The children will be in schools, not just your schools. The question is whose school? So this is the beginning of the era of finishing schools, skill institution, life schools. So if you don't have that, go and get ready to have that. Because the reforms that took place pre-2004 spoke about this thing. That was what gave birth to early years in the first place. So everybody needs to understand what is the problem of the education of today. It is not what is faulty, it is what is missing. So you secondary schools, this is a time for you to begin to think and rethink your design that can take care of post SS3 experience for at least 2 years. That's an additional window for income drive. And those of you that are probably in primary 6, this is an opportunity for you to now increase your index of value and offer. So it's not the chronological time spent in your school, it is the production, or the, like Rhoda said in today's stuff, the profile of the graduates from your school. So we need to see how we can re-engineer the minds of Nigerians and now provide that as the new system of education that the ministry will be compelled to follow. Remember, the Ministry of Education has less than 500 schools in the whole country. The Federal Ministry of Education has less than 500 schools in the entire country. So when you say stakeholders, you are not a stakeholder for them. You are the one being entitled. It's a entitlement mentality. So when they talked about their own understanding. And this is the time we need to begin to ask ourselves, maybe this is the prayer that has been answered, all the prayers we've been praying, that Nigerian production in education space is now ready to provide value for its own economy and at large the economy of the world. So schools should begin to now understand that, for example, at SS3 or even at primary 6, you can be raising student entrepreneurs. So instead of summer school, you might be creating summer school that changes to skill camp. Instead of summer camp, you might be creating teens business camp. Why? Because the world has shrunk in the age of achievement, so that everybody doesn't necessarily need to pack themselves to university. University is overrated. I hope I stop there so that Rhoda can talk.
Okay. University is overrated. It's a perspective, but it's a requirement, at least for certain courses. I'm sure that you would need some level of specialism when it's. I know AI is there, so it's not an AI conversation, but there are some special. AI is not going to solve. Okay, let me use Rhoda's line of recent line of social emotional learning. AI is not going to do that for you. University is going to do that for you. Yes, it will do it well, thoroughly for you. Yes, you might be able to do the odd course on Coursera, but university is going to help you to become a very good psychotherapist or a psychologist to be able to handle certain matters properly. And you will be able to trust that person that has spent 10,000 hours on that, as opposed to somebody that wants to go and do a vocational. We have a lot of back people calling themselves coaches and mental health advocates, and they're messing people's situations up. And we see those sort of things. So I don't want to say that universities are going to be totally obsolete or they'll be so messed up, because they still have a function. Even medicine, AI is going to take over a lot of things, blah, blah, blah. But we can still, I don't want to discount the role of, yet, anyway, I do understand there's going to be disruption, and the way we learn, how we learn, where we get certified, they're going to differ. And the university degree may not necessarily be the one that carries the most weight. If you have something that Google has given you, for example, you will carry it and put it on social media, it will beat your button in one or whatever university. You say, Google certified, whatever you are. Kathy said something. She's saying, especially in our federal universities that have strikes, that's another thing. So maybe those parents are thinking, oh, if my child starts school at the age of, my child is 8 years old in university, if they strike for 10 years, at least my child will still catch up, which is a valid point as well. It's a valid perspective. It lessens the time people spend. So, Kachi, thank you for that. It's a significant. So, it's a mess, isn't it? Is it not a mess? Rhoda, over to you.
Oh gosh, this topic. Yeah, I mean, I read what they had mentioned, that this is not, and really it's not a new policy. So they're just enacting a policy that has been. And so there's nothing new coming from the Federal Ministry of Education, to be honest. This is what it should have been. They also, if you think about it, maybe they think is an opportunity to bring back primary 6. Thanks to Mrs. Didi, who has been screaming about that. Bring it back and stop running. There's nobody chasing you and your children. And like I said on one of Ronke's posts, people should just say the truth about why they're rushing. They want to save money. It's not about the child. You just want to save money. Let's just say it. It's the truth. It's not your child. You're in a race to, keep the bank, keep your banks. I don't know. But to the question for me, Rhoda, I wonder what, I wish I could have a little more engagement with the woman, because
she's here.
For the last 6 years, I have been actively recruiting. And I'm not saying passively, actively, because I've had to function in an organization that was always recruiting, and my department then was if I was not recruiting for the specific function, maybe let's say academics department, I was recruiting for culture fit interviews. So I was part of the culture fit team. So every time, because it was, how they say you are an embodiment of the culture of the organization. So please, we need members, and they will always pull me through in to say, please, Rhoda, you represent the culture, do a culture fit. where am I going with it? For the past 6 years, I've actively recruited. And I don't think we've ever on our panel had a concern with a 22-year-old or a 23-year-old. So I'm a bit lost at that age being too old
Okay, she's here.
to
Let me ask. Kathy, would you like to join? If you just respond in the comments, would you like to join? Because I asked her, I left a message for her, and I know she's here because she's dropped another comment. So, Kathy, if you would like to join, just let me know. I'll just let one of us to just take a break, and you can join because this can hopefully. So, Kathy, please can you respond by letting? I'm listening. So, the questions that you want to ask her, just ask her, and I think she prefers to use the comment section.
Yeah, I'll look at the comments.
Video, it will help us starting to, it will be more impactful.
That would be nice too. So this is me just speaking from, supporting the HR department in the organization I've worked in for 6 years, and I've never really cared, or even the panel has never really cared for the age of the people. What I think most of us are looking for as recruiters or, people, owners of business, is somebody who is coming with a bunch of skills. And that's the real question. That's the real question we are asking.
But the everyday employer, perhaps she's talking about the big, well, we used to call it big fights. I don't know whether they call it here because of my background. They used to call it the big fights in the UK then. So maybe the PwCs, the KPMGs, all those MTNs, all those big ones, maybe those corporations maybe that is their requirement. Maybe we're not talking about a baker around the corner that wants an HR manager or something like that. Perhaps that's what she's talking about.
I put it to any of them in those big fives. They should come out and tell us if they've complained. I think what people are looking for actively, because I know I have friends in HR, these are ladies that are even global, HR leads of big organizations, even bigger than the big five in our Nigeria. I think, just to say that I'm just challenging that thought first, but so let's just imagine that's the status quo. I think the main issue still remains tracking it back to.
Sorry, Rhoda. She can join. So who can? Is it that Mr. Idayo or Ziba temporarily while she just answers Rhoda's question? So who wants to?
Okay, let me step back.
So it becomes a ladies' show. It becomes a ladies' show. But you are going to join back after she answered, yeah? Okay. Thank you, gentleman.
Nice. So while she's joining, I think the bigger issue point I wanted to make is around what constitutes our university education, or let's call it post-basic education in tertiary space. Because part of the challenge on the reform we've been looking for is how do we get credit systems back into the university in a way that students, get this opportunity to do job shadowing and work while they get credit points. I think that's something, because then if you look at it anywhere else, any part of the world, I know any part of the world. Yeah, we know each other. I was looking at you like, lady, I know you.
Yes, my name is actually Uche. Yes.
Uche.
My name is Uche.
Yeah.
Yes. I even went to school with Ronke.
Oh,
we were in QC together.
What is now happening?
Yes. I was a year ahead of you.
Are you doing more?
I was a year ahead of you in QC.
Are you doing more practice? Are you doing more practice? Did you forge your certificate? Because your name is Uche. Your name is Grace. Which one? Are you manifesting in different personalities? Which one now? Because if you see, there's not much Kati. Who is Kati Grace from?
Oh, my mother's name is Catherine, and my name is Grace. My English name is Grace. That's why I got the Kathy's Grace.
Uche that is tonight. Imagine.
It's Uche.
We're adding to the confusion of this 18 plus thing. It's just our head being taken. Nice to have you here. So please, I will let you continue. Rhoda and Uche, thank you.
Yes, Uche. Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead, Uche.
Okay, what I was talking about, I was trying to go back to when I think this thing started being like it started being like a culture for us. Back then when we graduated, at the time I finished school, they'll say not more than 23. I saw it in a couple of newspaper publications and all of that. And even when we go to the when I go for interviews and say, oh, we're looking for somebody within the age of this brackets. That's what they tell me. Because I now later found out that they're thinking, okay, if she's 25 or 26, maybe she's going to want to get married soon. She's going to start taking trying to build a family, is going to slow down her pace, or that was what was, at least for women, and even for men, they had that issue as well. So there was an age gap limit then. So people said, okay, that means the children have to finish school quickly, because most of the universities we had then were federal universities. It was when I was in school that Babcock came to be. Do you get that was when Babcock University came to be, and you could actually go in there and finish a 4-year course within the stipulated time. But I spent 7 years in school for a 4-year course. I almost spent 7 years in school, and even after that, I couldn't serve. Why? Because my name was not sent on time. So there were all these hiccups that delayed, and I was getting older. You get so some parents now started saying, okay, now I want to push them so that they'll have that time. They can even go and do masters and even start the employment process earlier. But along the line, that ideal has even been sidestepped. People are actually trying to save costs now, and are pushing that, and based on that are pushing their children. But I'm just saying that where this thing actually started from was not being able to get the kind of job you want because of your age. You would have, because I started as a receptionist. I couldn't get all the places I was applying to, said I was too old back then. So I started as a front desk person, receptionist, before I moved into advertising. And from there, okay, they took me in banking because I had some level of experience, and even and I got there, and I was even junior to some people that finished school before. But probably because they finished earlier and were there. And when you find that out, you find out that they finished secondary school at maybe 15, 16, and they were done with university by 2021, and that's why they were there. So this thing has had a root cause somewhere, and of course now different things are coming in. So people don't even know why it started. So that was just my own take. I was just trying to address what I thought may have been the root. I may not be totally 100% correct, but
No, but that's your
thank you.
experience. So why it's correct and it's valid.
It's correct.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
one answer to the challenges. I think it's a demon. It's like a Medusa with different heads. And I think you've tackled and you've addressed something very significant, and I appreciate you and thank you for speaking
Thank
on
you.
things
Thank you so
about
much.
it, because people keep quiet. Our silence is consent. Our silence is just saying, okay, anything that I want to do, just do. We won't say anything. Even when we protest now, we see that the protest, as I said, is now becoming just a waste of our time. It's not effective. You can't pass this garbage. We only have these our voices. We only have our voices, and we have to speak up. So that is so valid, and I'm grateful that you joined. Thank you so much.
Thank
Rhoda,
you.
do you have any questions for her while she's still here? Ziba?
No, I think Uche, I know Uche very well. Uche is very clear about what this is a generational concern. There were periods, there were eras. Let me call them various eras that we
Yeah.
faced, and she's really pointed out the foundation of that misconception. Is it backed by any too much data? That's Uche's experience, and it's probably a notion that many people have carried. And because I even at that time I know Uche, I don't know which period we're talking about, but it feels to me like it's around the same period my older sister was also looking for a job, and she was looking for the job in the finance banking sector, because that was what she studied.
Yeah.
And at that time, that's the field that really was giving this age limits a lot. A lot of the other
Oil
fields
companies
really,
as well. Oil companies
yeah.
as well. Oil
Yeah, so
companies.
these fields they were given, and they were the ones that was when those in that industry was booming, and so that was
Yeah.
where the jobs were, new companies were posting out, and they were coming up with these requirements then. And so yes, it came from somewhere. So it's valid, is a story. And the truth is that it's also, like Ronke has been saying, it's also a point of advocacy and a reason why we must investigate and bring out the facts where they belong, and so whilst it's what it was, it's unfortunate that their parents had to then take it out on their children, because I call it a taking out, because not everybody was ready for it. I just read a story, I don't know if you saw it, Ronke, online, of a student, a very popular blogger, of a young boy who was taken abroad, and then he has come back. And I'm talking about, and I even know those stories. There's so many of them that are going, they're coming back, they're in the university, they're coming back. At the risk of what at the end of the day? Is it at the risk of who? Is it at the risk of my child's mental state? At the risk of my child finding their self-esteem and confidence? There's a lot of young people, just tell them come out and speak for themselves. They can't. They're all like almost rushing and hiding under the bushel. That's also part of the issues, So again, thank you for sharing that perspective. And I don't really have any um uh, uh like feedback on that, because it is your story, it's original, and it's a notion, and it's quickly will spread.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is, every parent should know who their child is and try to continuously guide that child to what they want them to be. Ultimately, you want children who are full of self-esteem, have a very strong sense of mental well-being, have a sense of, their own direction and their future. Like I always say, I'm in education, but I don't really care for my children doing everything that's popular by the whole world. I don't want it, to be honest. If you leave me alone, I don't want it. I don't want all this. No, because at the end of the day, I want my children to feel well in this life, mentally, socially, by their own self-identity. That's all that counts. And they walk and strut this earth, feeling that they've come here to do their own purpose. And so, again, at the end of the day, parents, it's your choice. Choose you this day, the path that you want to follow. But as a country, we've got to put things down. I don't know what to say, but as a country, policy-wise, the universities have to do better, and everything has to track back. We need to get universities to the stage where students are building out. Volunteering is a job, it's a skill. Before my niece currently is her CV is something else, and she's just turned 20, and she's in the third year in university. Look, her CV will compete with people who have graduated, God knows, and have been working for years. So that's where we need to get to. I guess so. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Rhoda.
Yes,
Thank
I
you, Uche.
agree with that.
Appreciate you
Thank you.
coming with little or no notice. Like pretty much just saw your whole. So thank you. God bless you. We'll continue the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
We need parental. We need non-parents. We need everybody. All hands on deck to just improve our education system in Nigeria. So I really, really appreciate that you did this. You're not just a fly on the wall. You're not just unbothered, just making noise in your house. And thank you for coming
yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Good night,
and
everyone.
I'm going to invite you again. Now that I know that you're here, I'm going to invite you again. All right. So
Okay, then. Thanks.
I'll let you go so that Mr. Itayo can join. Ziba, please, can you tell us
Okay,
what
no problem. No problem. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Is somebody at the 14, 15, 16-year-old, and I don't know when I just started it. That's the first question. Who knows if they started it? Then number two is, if your child is 14, 15, 16, 17, what are the recommendations? What would you want? What would you tell the parent to do? If parents say, yeah, but my child is 14, I already finished, I didn't know. What would the parent, what would the, what would you advise?
Yeah, I get. For me,
Can you click the X to leave the thing so that I can invite, so you can just click the X to leave so that I can invite Mr. Itayo
okay.
back.
So, for me, very who's finished secondary school at 14 clearly did not have a plan that was in the interest of the child. Have initiative.
Can you stop it? Stop judging me. If I knew better, I would have done it. Don't stop it. You are where we are now. Don't give me the answers. Don't let me enter one trouser with you right now. Don't telling me, my child is 15. I made mistake and so what? What do you want me to do with the child right now?
Yeah, so let me tell you what the time
I don't do education again.
with a plan that and like I said, there are so many opportunities for everybody in the value chain that this thing has affected one way or the other. So I'm always seeing opportunities actually. First thing is you need to there was something Rhoda said. She said every parent should know their children, know your child. You should know your. So I'm going to speak from the perspective of the assumption that a parent that knows the child sits with the child and come up with a plan. We've got 2 years, we've got even 3 years before you can write Jamb, because I don't have money to send you to the UK right now. Exchange rate is crazy and all of that. And like Rotimi also said, most of the schools in the West African hemisphere cannot absorb the numbers from Nigeria right now, right? So have a plan. There's so many things they can do. Those parents who's always traveling, a beautiful experience. Why? Because child, for the lack of better adjective, forced to have to for other cultures, languages. There's so many things to do. Volunteering is one of the best for their life right now. And when I say different skills, it has to be skills that are relevant to whatever profession they eventually want to pursue. So you've got photography, it is a thing, it is art. You've got fine art, all kind. You've got the voiceover academy, literally begging people to come for classes. There are so many skills that they can acquire. I have interviewed a graduate. I've been recruiting in the past couple of months, and I've interviewed not a graduate, a couple of graduates that cannot type in Word. They cannot use PowerPoint presentation. My 10-year-olds help me out with my presentations. They help me to put drafts together. And I'm shocked when it's because people have so prioritized passing, and they think, having straight A's is excellence, but that's not it. There are skills that these children need to develop to make them more employable.
That is the point I'm even trying to drive in. That's why I asked that question. Maybe actually I call it a trick question.
Okay.
Because these things that we are calling are things that a lot of people look down on. Why do I want my child? I know that some people are getting woke here, but the reality is, why would my child now be doing photography?
Well,
but my daughter, they look down on fake DJs and stuff like that. She's a DJ.
Yeah.
But I'm a different kind of parent. But I deal a lot of parents are like that.
So
making
all
those things, they look down on it. So because I think that schools should do this, schools should do that. But how about the change management, the cultural orientation, the mindset shift, the paradigm shift that is required in the whole country to absorb things like this?
Yeah, so you see why the government is trying to enforce this policy, or to have a change. One of the change strategies would be there ought to have been some level of education put there, because people's mindsets need to change. And when we I traced it back to the family and our value system. There is something fundamentally.
Hang on, I want your network to recover so that we don't lose the value that you're giving us, because your network is a bit shaky at the moment. So maybe you want to see if there's another one or something, because we're losing some of what you're saying. Let me give you a minute. If you don't be on network, we'll come back to you. Let me go to Mr. Ron. So before I go there, okay, because these are safety checks. These are one of those pictures. These are important skills that children should be allowed to explore, which is correct. Lola says they pass subject skills, but they don't pass life skills. Yes, they don't have life skills, they don't have soft skills, which is very, very important. I hope I've not missed any other comments that has come through. Okay, so what to you, Mr. Ipaya, when we talk about the change management you're talking about, and also the paradigm shift required, because you also said that schools will now need to be innovative, creative, blah, blah, blah. I get it, but that's probably for sustainability. However, how about the parents that are supposed to now put their children in those schools? They are like, I don't want my child to go and be doing one year leadership course, and so my child should be doing. not that it's laughing, but it's used to when their mates are doing heavy things in the America, you know, my own will say he's doing one leadership or learning how to bake cake or learning how to plait hair, do wig. Even my house girl is doing wig now. So what is that? So that culture, that mindset, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? And right now, I want to advise parents right now.
Thank you very much. I think that parents respond better with history, facts, and patterns. If you think about it, many years ago, you wouldn't see people proudly saying that they are into comedy. There was nothing like even skits. Many people won't be proud to say that they are DJs or musicians or artists. You know, these people did these things from a defiant point. But today, because of the showcase, because of the celebration, because of the fact that people can say, you know what?
Don't say the money.
Yes, of course. Yes, what I'm saying is, if there are many things people make money from, but
Not like
if you don't hear people,
they are
if you
monetizing
don't,
on TikTok, they are
yes,
monetizing just by doing an
exactly.
I want to become a
So,
skit maker.
yes, so what we're saying is because the information is out there. And I think schools should also join in the crusade of trying to explain the value on career path. So whatever it is that people do, we need to start celebrating beyond the way we respond to, even when we do career week, the things we reinforce speaks of where value is, and we're the ones with educating parents. So when we do career day, the children put on gown, they put on wig. You know, that's for lawyers. They get costumes that speak to the traditional careers. But then we need to begin to now get parents to understand that career week, we should be able to invite people beyond the top 5 regular careers. So why is it that a DJ is not invited for the career week? Why is it that a footballer is not invited for the career week?
I'm gonna speak to that. And that's why Lepon School is the best school in Nigeria. It's no longer even me. It's the best school. Don't play. Or else we learn the hard way. Don't play. Now, when we have our careers week at La Poche, what we tell them is that they should come up with careers that nobody knows about. That's what we tell them. We call it careers of the future.
Yeah.
And we explain to them that in the future, what's going to happen, we don't know. We tell them that people are social media managers, for example, they never existed enough. We explain all these things to them. And we tell them to come up with what they think, and they come up with the weirdest thing. I'm telling you, there was one girl that did something. Anyway, long story. I don't want to digress too much, but they come up with the weirdest thing. And then when we have our careers, we have a parent that operates something called a silent disco. Never heard it until I met him. He operates something called a silent disco, and we invite people like that do all sorts of data science and parents. We intentionally, we not to downplay the lawyers and the other ones. We do, but we don't. We just want to bring it to the consciousness that there are weird careers that are happening. So I just wanted to correct the notion that it's not all of us that are doing it. The same thing applies to the response to this thing. The response to this announcement is not so much of a shock to me. My own is even more of God catch you. If you don't pass your that is more because they are breaking they broke the law, they broke the rules and messed people up. The only people that I keep saying are the children are the ones that are the victims all the time.
Yeah.
It's always the children that suffer and pay the price for the mistakes of the parents, for the mistakes of the schools, for the mistakes of the schools that are not doing things right, and the mistake of the government. It is the children all the time, and it needs to be fixed. Now we are in the situation now. What do we do?
Okay, so let me just I'm trying so much not to get cracked. I'm seeing rocket pushing some strange elements.
I'm a stick maker now. I'm going to get I'm making people there's not one said I just need 2 months. So anybody that is looking for moving up, let me just announce right now. I'm looking for peace. Anything that is I don't have
I strongly believe that you should start a film academy or something.